told me it wasn't ready. And when I took the picture, that is to say, when I took that first picture, so I recomposed the shot and waited for the spirit to give me some kind of cue. Shortly, I began to see something through the viewfinder, but it simply didn't register completely visually. It seemed to register in some other region of the mind. So I took that as the cue, and I snapped the shutter. I waited for the flash to recycle and took a third photograph, then left the gravesite to finish the remainder of the roll film. And what he has sent me is one of the photographs on that roll of film. If you will check my website, I suspect Keith will have it up there pretty quickly. If you have a ghost or spirit photograph, you may send it to me tonight, and we will act with dispatch and get it up there. My web address is www.artbell.com. West of the Rockies, you're on the what do you mean? What the heck was what?
Oh, I'm on.
Yes.
Hi, Eric. How are you? This is Michael from Manhattan Beach in California.
Yes, Michael.
Well, my story goes back quite a few years. My ghost story was precipitated by a world event which I was part of. Let me take you back a few years. When I was just 17 and out of high school, I enlisted in the Navy back east, went to Sampson, New York for boot camp, and from there, through some testing that they gave, they sent me to the premier radio school the Navy has, which is in Bedford Springs, Pennsylvania. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I've heard of it.
And it was the A1 class of the Navy radio school. It was a converted hotel and country club. And we learned code, we learned procedures, and we couldn't graduate unless we took at least 30 words per minute.
Right.
Now, FOX, which was the word for all the Navy information that was disseminated out of Washington, was sent at 18 words per minute. But out of Bedford Springs, you couldn't graduate unless you copied at least 30. And the top of the class is 3.8 and above. Fortunately, I was one of those, received a rating in third class rating upon graduation.
That's pretty good. I can't do 30. I can do on a good day 20, but not 30.
Oh, 30. We used to do 30 was the beginning. We used to copy at least 40, 50.
Yeah, I know there are certain crazed people who can do that.
Anyway, from there at that time in 1944, there were no more fleet assignments or submarine assignments. Everybody was assigned to the amphibious grouping.
Yes.
And from there, I went to Fort Pierce, Florida. I was assigned to an amphibious group. And what the radiomen did at that time was to, with the LCVTs that carried the troops ashore, there was a coxswain and a gunner mate and a radioman.
Yes.
And that's what we were trained for.
Yes.
After a few weeks there, I was assigned to an APA, and we went to the Pacific.
Right.
Carrying on a bit, my ghost story was precipitated from a day that I'll never forget. Probably not a week or a day goes by that I don't think about it. April the 1st, Easter Sunday, was the day we invaded and landed on Okinawa. And we were assigned to carry the troops in waves, as you know. I'm sure you're familiar with it.
Yes.
To shore,
Yes.
which we did. And it was kind of scary, but we did our job. And our ship, our APA, carried the second wave across. And by the time we were finished that day, we got back to the ship and hoisted the LCVPs aboard the ship, and we finally hit the sack about close to midnight. this is where my ghost story begins. About 3 o'clock in the morning, we were all tired as hell, and I think when my head hit the pillow, I fell asleep immediately. And about 3 o'clock in the morning, I know it was around 3 o'clock because I looked at my watch when it happened. Nothing startled me. There was no noise. I just woke up, got up in my bunk, and there was, I forgot to preface something. One thing I hated about the air is I couldn't handle the smell of the diesel exhaust. Kind of like nauseated me.
Yes.
I never got seasick, but I just couldn't handle that odor. So anyway, I woke up that morning about 3 o'clock. I woke up to the sweet perfume smell, and I what the hell is going on here? One of the guys must have taken a bottle of perfume and dropped it or some damn thing. So then I realized, that smell is familiar. Remember how your old aunt or your grandmother used to splash that body powder over them, the shaving powder after they took a shower and it smelled so sweet and flowery?
Yes.
Well, that's the smell that I had, and I had my favorite aunt smell. My Aunt Melanie back east, God bless her. I could never forget that smell. And that's what I was smelling. The odor of the diesel fuel was gone,
and the air was
prominent.
Yes.
And after smelling it, I realized what was happening. I looked at my watch. It was around 3 o'clock, and I fell back to sleep. And that was the end of the incident. And about 2 weeks later, I got a letter from my mother. She told me that my Aunt Melanie had died on Easter Sunday in the afternoon. And it was devastating to me, but I, thought about it quite a bit. And then a couple of weeks later,
Most is my card.
Yes.
What the heck is going on here? She said she died Easter Sunday in the afternoon.
Yes.
And I contacted my mother, wrote her, and asked her exactly what time she passed away.
And when you did the time
It
conversion.
was exactly at that moment that I woke up when I smelled the powder, the sweet floral scent of the powder that my Aunt Melanie used to put on her body.
I appreciate the call, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. And what he just told you is very, very common. And it implies that when one passes to the other side, there is at the very least a period of time when you get to visit with or be near those you love. It's been in just about every movie I can think of that has dealt with ghosts and death. And I guess most recently, the movie with Robin Williams, what dreams may come. You don't go immediately. You get to console, or you get to feel, or you get to be with, or you get to leave a sense with those who you love. And I guess it doesn't matter where in the world they are, does it? On a ship near Okinawa with all those time zone changes or anything else. Because over there really is not time, nor is there space. So you're moving in a different realm. First time caller online, you're on the air. Hi.
I just wanted to tell you I really enjoy your show.
Thank you.
And I was tell you about...
There you go. Boost it.
One night my son was in his room, he had a friend, and they called me in there, they were yelling. And I stood with the manor, and I went in there, and there was this shadowy figure underneath the bed with the red eyes.
Red eyes?
It scared the hell out of me.
Under the bed with red eyes?
Yes. And it's like shadowy, and I was so scared I called my husband in there, and he went in there, and he said, what the hell was that? And I said, I really don't know. And then my son just informed me that he has seen this again. He has been in his room one night, and the shadowy figure went by, and he's also seen it again at my mother's house. It was like in the shadows, and he threw a rock at it. So I think we're going to be doing a lot of praying in the near future, because I have no idea what that thing is. I personally don't want to see it.
He threw a rock at it?
Yes, and he said it just kind of sat there, and that kind of stuff really scared me.
Now, one could imagine almost anything, but one has got to admit that when it's red, glowing eyes, it's not a good message.
No, I immediately think the devil, and I'm a Christian, and I believe in praying, because things like that you don't want hanging around you.
Well, you sure as hell don't want them under your bed.
I don't want them anywhere.
I appreciate your call, sir. Wildcard line, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello, Art. How are you this morning?
I'm
Or should I say this evening? This is Patrick in Fairfield, California, an old Air Force brat myself.
yes, sir.
Just want to, first of all, give you all my best wishes to you and your family. I hope that all gets worked out.
Oh, it will.
I wanted to also tell everybody that we have a new Usenet group that's just been, it's 2 weeks old, I think, called ALT, or ALT, Binaries Paranormal. So anybody with good ghost pictures, we got lots of great horror pictures up there and stuff. And
I've been collecting them over the years now. I've got some really incredible photographs on my side.
it's an interesting phenomenon. I certainly can't say what the heck it is, but
One wonders why so many times the camera catches what the eye does not. Really strange. Anyway, do you have a story?
Yes. I wanted to relate one of my many ghost stories that I share with my friends on all folklore ghost stories. Another great group. It's about an experience I had while I was working towards my degree in parapsychology at the sleep lab at Sac State, Sacramento. And we were doing an experiment this particular night. We were mapping the stages of sleep using Kirlian photography.
Right.
It was eventually written up in the Journal for the Psychophysiological Study of Sleep.
So in other words, the Kirlian image changes with the state of sleep.
It changes
That's something.
not only through the REM period, but between REM and non-REM.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, it was the first time that was ever done. Unfortunately, it was a pilot program. We didn't have much funding, and what it required was that my assistant Mike stayed inside the anechoic chamber with the sleeping subject,
Right.
and he had to advance the film manually.
Right.
In between exposures, when I would cue him with a little light from the experimental room.
Gotcha.
And this particular night, it was about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I could actually hear two people snoring over the intercom. Mike had fallen asleep himself.
Bad.
I was wondering how the heck I was going to get him awake without waking up the other person.
Yeah.
But we'd already gotten some pretty good exposures that night. But all of a sudden, I hear this movement over the intercom, and Mike uttering this low curse. And I was thinking to myself, oh, geez, there goes the entire night. If he ends up waking up the person
Yes.
prematurely.
Sure, ruining the experiment.
Exactly. And as it turned out, it was going to be ruined anyway because he yelled out over the intercom my name, Pat, and he goes, my God, you won't believe this. She's walked right through me. And I hear the heavy door of the chamber being opened and Mike's footsteps coming around the corner to the experimental room. And he goes, look at that. And he grabbed my arm with about 500 pounds of pressure. And there in the wall from the experimental room into the chamber comes this kind of misty looking stuff. And by the time it was halfway through the wall, just past the EEG, the old brass Model 6 EEG we were using, was kind of, it solidified into the apparition of, I don't know, about a 60, 65-year-old woman wearing a flower print dress, and she was just like floating with, about ankle length down to the floor. You couldn't see her feet. And she just kind of floated through the very narrow, long experimental room. And I looked over at him, but both of our jaws are dropped, the hair on the back of our necks are just sticking up. I've got goosebumps.
Yeah, like mine is now. Oh my God.
I mean, it was an incredible sight. And so when she passed through the shelving on the left-hand side where we store all the EEG paper, just passed through as if it were nothing. And she never looked over at us or anything, but we immediately went around over to the left where there's another hallway. It was kind of a big U-shaped complex.
of the psychology building, and we were expecting her to come through what would be one of the small little experimental rooms next to our experimental room, and then come out into the hallway, and she never did. So we went back around, and sure enough, there she goes floating back into the sleep chamber, and then we indeed went over to the right-hand port where she came through the anechoic chamber and disappeared out the outside wall.
Did the Kirlian photography that you were doing happen to catch any of this?
Actually, unless there was an exposure being made during that moment, we wouldn't have known.
Do you think, is it reasonable to ask you whether you think the kind of experimentation you were doing, monitoring sleep, Kirlian photography, something very unusual, might have, in effect, opened a door that allowed all of this to occur, or what's your sense of it?
Well, she showed herself the second time, Art, but the experimental parameters during that time were a very traditional sleep type of experiment where we were measuring the temporal regressive reference of dreams dependent upon the effect of alcohol and body temperature.
No, but it may be that the very study of that sort of unconscious
Absolutely. I would have to tend to agree with you on that, yeah.
I appreciate the call.
Hey, thank you, Art. Bye-bye.
I could not have handled that. Not at all. From the high desert, this is Ghost to Ghost AM.
Well, hello and welcome to the stream.
Call Art Bell in the Kingdom of Nye from west of the Rockies at 1-800-618-8255. East of the Rockies, 1-800-825-5033. First-time callers may reach Art at 1-775-727-1222. And the wildcard line is open at 1-775-727-1295. To reach Art on the toll-free international line, call your AT&T operator and have them dial 800-893-0903. This is Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell from the Kingdom of Nye.
Actually, it's Ghost to Ghost AM. Good to be with you tonight. They've been good ones so far, haven't they? Listen, I was originally going to take the ghost photographs directly, but I'm too busy listening to you. And a couple of them didn't go through that I already sent to Keith, and I'm mortified about that. So, if you have a good ghost photograph, please send it right now to webmaster@artbell.com. That'll go directly to Keith, and he'll get it up. We're going to put up tonight's ghost photographs for you. And I had a particularly good entity photograph that I forwarded to Keith, and I wish to heck he had received that. I'm going to probably have to try and send it again. But for those of you sending photographs now, please send them directly to webmaster@artbell.com. And we'll get them up, the good ones, as quickly as they arrive. It's Ghost to Ghost AM. That's all we're talking about tonight is ghosts. And we're definitely, so far anyway, getting our money's worth. This comes from Tim, Phoenix, Arizona. Art, a contribution to your program. This experience took place 20 years ago. And I swear I get goosebumps when recalling this incident to this day. It was the summer of '81. I was a typical 17-year-old. I remember that. I'd sneak out after my parents were asleep. I remember that. And drive around with my friends looking for girls, of course. Not that we would have had the slightest idea what to do with them. Very slim chance that they would have given us a time of day, but I digress. After started getting back home at about 3 a.m. I got out of my friend's car in front of my parents' house, waved goodbye to my buddies, turned around to head towards the front doors. I looked around. I was quite startled to see a man standing in the street between me and my parents' driveway. He was backlit by the street light behind him, so I couldn't clearly make out any features. I could, though, discern that he appeared to be wearing a long trench coat and a stovepipe hat. Additionally, he was standing next to an older-style bicycle. This is an extremely odd clothing choice, considering this took place in the summer heat of Phoenix. Now, bear in mind that we had just driven up the street directly over the spot where he was standing, and he was not there. I was scared because I assumed that anyone out this late, or early in the morning as you look at it, it was most likely up to no good one way or the other. Hypocrisy never did. Quite frankly, I had a bad feeling. In an attempt to ascertain his intentions, I asked him, "Can I help you?" No answer. I repeated, "Can I help you?" No answer. He just stood there. Kind of cocked his head to one side as if trying to figure out me as well. At this point, I'd had about enough, and I began to look around for something to defend myself with. Unfortunately, he stood directly in my path. I couldn't get to my parents' house with no alternative. I began walking toward him with my hand out as if to shake his hand in a friendly gesture. I got within a few feet of him before breaking into a full sprint, and I simply ran right past him. And I noted that as I did, it was very, very cold as I ran past. I didn't look back. Now, the next morning, my neighbor, who worked the graveyard shift, no pun intended, poked his head over the fence to ask me, "What was that all about in your driveway early this morning?" While I was somewhat relieved to discover that somebody could corroborate the experience, I was deeply troubled by what he said next. He said, "I know you're going to think I'm crazy, but after you took off running, that man got on his bike, pedaled a few yards, and simply vanished." Well, my neighbor has been known to take a drink every now and then. The possibility of his being sincere and sober resulted in many a sleepless night. Wildcard Line, you're on the air. Hi.
How you doing, Art?
All right, sir.
I'm calling, listening to you from 105.1 in Las Vegas.
You bet. KBBC. Yes, Tony.
One day back in 1984, I was getting drowsy, so I decided to take a nap.
Right.
After several hours, I awoke at about 12 o'clock at night. It was a particularly dark and creepy half-lit moon night. I had my window cracked when a noise rustling in the leaves drew my attention. I proceeded to look out of my window for a few minutes and saw nothing in the mostly blackened outdoors. I decided to go back to sleep, but for some reason I couldn't, and that's when I heard the fluttering kind of sound. That's when I decided to go outside and see what it was.
A fluttering kind of sound. You mean like a bird or something?
Yes, but it was in the leaves.
Okay.
Carefully, that is, so I grabbed a butcher knife. Creeping down my stairs to the side door of our third-story house, I rounded the corner to the garage, expecting a prowler to pop out from one of the many oak trees.
And having to use your butcher knife.
That's right. I continued onward, and I saw, with the aid of a neighbor's dim patio light, a thin 5-foot-high body of some kind with a gigantic head scurried from behind one tree onto the next tree. It went behind this tree as well.
Let's slow this one up a little bit. A body with a gigantic head flitting between trees?
Yeah, it was scurrying.
Scurrying.
It was kind of scurrying.
All right.
And it went from behind one tree onto the next tree, and it was behind this tree as well. Not getting a great look at it, I proceeded towards the tree with my butcher's knife. When I got to the oak tree, I prepared for the worst, knowing whatever it was had to be there according to all the laws of physics.
Right.
So I jumped past the tree and there was nothing there. Whatever it was, it had disappeared. Needless to say, I got no sleep that night.
What do you think it was? What do you think you had encountered?
Possibly a demonic entity. When I was looking at it, it was backlit as well. But it looked like it was completely black, whatever it was.
Well, I'm glad for you that you didn't have to actually plunge a butcher knife into a demonic entity.
Well, that's not the end of the story.
Oh,
There's one more quick clincher.
yes.
3 days later, I found a cat of mine that had been missing,
Right.
and it was completely degutted.
It was degutted.
Completely degutted. And it had a razor sharp cut down right the center of it, and it has been completely degutted.
You're sure that in some sort of psychotic, unaware, unconscious moment, you're sure you didn't degut your own cat, right?
I'm absolutely sure of that.
And you connect the two events.
I kind of do, kind of don't, but you never know.
You never know, and horrible as it was to have a degutted cat, better little feline than yourself, eh?
Exactly.
Could have found you out there degutted.
Got it.
All right, sir, thank you very much.
Thank you.
East of the Rockies, you are on the air. Good morning.
Hi, Art.
Hi there, where are you?
I'm in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. My name is Joe.
Louisiana, as a general rule, is a very haunted place, and with many haunted cities, isn't it?
Oh, yes, indeed.
Mm-hmm.
The Myrtles Plantation is really one of the most haunted houses in America. And my wife and I wanted to vacation there one year, but we really didn't have the money.
You wanted to go on vacation there?
Oh yeah, many people stay in the Myrtles Plantation overnight just to see if they can get a glimpse of a ghost.
Why, just out of curiosity, why do you think somebody would pay good money to get the you-know-what scared out of them?
Human nature.
Yeah, it's some sort of comment on human nature, isn't it? Well, go ahead.
All right. The house that my mother lives in was built in 1974, the year that I was born. And when I was a small child, see my sisters and my brother, they all told me this. When I was a small child, I had an imaginary friend that I called Sam, and I described him as a tall man wearing all black clothes with a black broad-brimmed hat and long black hair.
May I stop you and ask a question? I've heard so many stories about children that had imaginary friends. I never had one, and I've always wanted to ask, your imaginary friend,
Mm-hmm.
could you see your friend? Was your friend an invisible friend, and you just had this mental image of your friend? Did your friend talk to you? What kind of relationship was it?
Well, I was so young that I really don't remember. I was about 3 or 4, and I was telling my brother and sisters about this, and come to find out, a couple of years after I hadn't talked to him or talked about him or anything, my sisters and my brother, my parents, and a couple of friends were sitting in the living room, and this man, just as I described, my imaginary friend, nobody saw him appear, but he started walking through the living room in front of everyone and started walking down the hall. Well, my dad gets up to go look, to see who's this man that's walking in the house, figuring it to be, a burglar or, someone that just was on drugs or something. When he got to the hall, the man wasn't there. Now, this happened 8 times in front of at least 3 people each time. And he's never done anything that harmed the family or anything. But my family all called him Sam because he was exactly as I had described my imaginary friend Sam. Now, my wife, when she met me, she's a sensitive, and when she met me, she knew that something was in the house. And I haven't seen Sam since I was about 14, 15 years old.
Yeah.
And she, when I called her tonight to say that you were doing this show, and for her to listen, she told me that she saw him go around the corner just the other day. Just walking, you know, like when you see someone go around the corner, just catch the edge of them.
Of course. Out of the corner of your eye, sort of.
Yeah. And she walked around the corner and he wasn't there. And she didn't mention this to me until I talked to her tonight. And I wish she had, because I'd like to know what's going on.
Well, who knows? Maybe the next time you see Sam, it's going to be time for you to go.
Yeah, maybe. Also, my sister, one of my sisters, she says, she relates a story to me about waking up in the middle of the night and seeing, like, a Native American woman standing at the end of her bed that disappeared. And that happened to her, she told me, 3 or 4 times in that house. Well, when she moved to Germany, she was in the army, and she moved to Germany, she was stationed in Stuttgart. She said that she saw the same Indian woman. And I talked to her about 6 months ago. And she told me that she has seen this Indian woman everywhere she's gone.
Not good.
So she thinks it's probably a guardian spirit.
That may well be, and it may be that Sam is yours. Anyway, if you see Sam again, we're going to want to know about it.
Alrighty.
All right? Take care. I don't know about the black clothes. Meet Joe Black. Strange. Perhaps there are entities that remain with us all our lives. Guide us through, and then when the time comes, take us out. What's to the Rockies? You're on the air. Hi.
Yeah, hi, Art. How you doing?
Well, it's starting out a little strange.
Well, you asked for it.
Yeah, you're right, I did.
Well, anyway, I'm listening to you on 105.1 in Vegas.
Yes, sir, KVBC.
Well, this story, I'm originally from Hawaii, and there's a whole bunch of stars. As you well know, Hawaii's a hot spot for things like
I
this.
do know that, yes.
And this happened while I was a teenager back in the early 70s, and we were visiting family from the island of Kauai, which happens to be the oldest island in the chain of islands on Hawaii.
Kauai, yes.
And one of the spookiest. Well, as a child growing up, you know, I would hear tons of stories from families, you know, about this sort of thing. And it'll always happen in the evenings, and we'll get scared, and the next day when daylight's out, we're not scared anymore. Well, a bunch of our cousins, and my brother, and cousins, and one friend, there's 5 of us in the car, that evening, traveling, just cruising around the island. And back in the 70s, there weren't many street lights. There's not many still till today, but there's a lot more today.
Right.
And we decided to go out and have some fun because, you know, we said, hey, let's go call the ghost. One of the things they tell us in Hawaii that you never do is whistle in the nighttime.
Whistle?
Calling the spirits. You never do that. So we said, you know.
So that's what you were going to do?
And that's exactly what we were going to do.
Figures.
And we said, hey, let's go down, and the place is called Spouting Horn.
Spouting Horn.
And it's like the blowhole where the waves that come in, it goes up underneath the lava rock and it blows.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I've seen it.
Okay, oh, great, okay. And anyway, it was there. It was like a dead-end street. You know, you go up and then there's cane fields around there. So we went to the very end, and we were out there whistling, calling the ghost. Oh, here, come here, ghost. Here, ghost.
You mean, well, do the whistle.
Yeah. Come on, ghost, you know.
Like you were calling a dog.
Like a dog.
Yeah.
Because it said don't whistle, and we said, ha, that's just going to happen. So we have this one cousin of ours. He's a little skinny guy, and he likes to scare people all the time, so we thought we'd play a joke on him. And we told him, now that night we didn't have much moonlight, but you could still see, you know, silhouettes. So there was some moon, obviously. And we told him, he says, okay, you know, there's a big old tree over there by the cane field. If you walk to there and come back to the car, we'll give you a quarter. And so he's thinking, well, I know what these guys are going to do, man. They're going to dig out on me. So he says, okay, I'll do that. So he says, okay, go. So he walked, he disappeared. We couldn't see him. So we all jumped in the car and we took off. We went down the street. We're laughing, you know, we're going down the street. So I turn around to see, you know, what he's doing, you know, if I could see my cousin or what's going on. Maybe he's running down after us.
Sure.
And I see, like, he's crouching over, standing position, but he's crouching over.
So I'm laughing. He says, "Oh, look at him. What, what's he doing?" And then my brother turns around and says, "I don't know that. I don't know what he's doing." So we had a ball. We went down and we drove like about a mile to the bottom of the hill towards the hotel, or that one hotel out in that area. And so we parked and we laughed and we were talking and we were saying how funny it is, how he likes to stir people and on and on. And so we finally decided, you know what, it's been a few minutes, let's go get him. The gag's over, let's just go get him and get out of here.
Sure.
We had our laugh. But the driver cousin of mine, he totally acted strange. And when we said, okay, let's go get him, Henry, let's go up and get him. And he just, laughed in a strange voice and says, no, we'll wait some more. So we started chuckling a little bit, said, okay, we'll go along with him. Well, we asked him to drive up a couple of times, and when it came to the third time, it was really weird, like our cousin talking strange voice. Keep on saying no, let him walk down to us. So my brother, being the oldest in the car at that time, says, well, look, if you're not going to turn around and get him, I'll kick you out of the car, I'll drive the car up, we'll get him, you walk home. So then he agreed, okay, we'll go get him. So we're going back up the road, and as we get closer to the end, we decided to turn the lights off to creep up on him. We shut the radio down, but we couldn't see him, so we sort of made the corner. And we were at the ledge, and the windows are down, of course, and we hear this Hawaiian chanting sort of music. No instruments to it. I know you know the music I'm talking about.
Of course I do. I've got about less than a minute.
Okay. Well, anyway, we get there. We find him sitting on the end.
Kids in the neighborhood who would come around and ring the doorbell, myself included.
No, I used to do that too.
And run away, sure.
Sometimes with a lit dog poop bag.
Sure. I've never pulled that stunt quite, but yes.
It does work. I mean, the homeowner runs out, of course, and then stomps it out, and the result can be imagined.
I imagine. I would imagine. Well, needless to say, there was a short in the doorbell. This had happened before, and there was a humming in the kitchen where the speaker was, and my father took apart the speaker part of the doorbell in the kitchen, and not only was the speaker off, but the wires were hanging down for my friend and I both to see. They were all hanging there.
Gotcha.
The hot leads, the cold leads.
Right, sure.
Yeah, and
just the bare wires.
Right, and they were all hanging there. Well, we used to joke about ghosts in the house, and there were, of course, your creaks and everything else, and the wind closing doors, and we just happened to be joking about ghosts that night, and that doorbell rang.
The doorbell rang.
The doorbell rang.
With
no wires attached. There were no wires attached.
Are you sure you heard the doorbell?
Am I sure I heard the doorbell?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty damn sure I heard that doorbell.
Okay.
Because this is nothing like I've ever heard before. I mean, it was the doorbell, and we both looked at each other, and it was a hair-raising thing. Chills ran up and down my spine. Now, I've never believed in ghosts, and I really still don't, and I can't believe there was.
So you do have an explanation then?
No.
No.
I have no explanation. But I still can't. I can't believe that another entity was responsible for it. Although you would have to be ignorant to believe that there was not something else out there.
Precisely, sir. I appreciate the call. Indeed, you would have to be ignorant to imagine that it's all over. There's nothing out there. Well, there is something out there. And if you listen, as you listen during the night, you will become convinced yourself if you have not by personal experience. Of course, all the questions are, what is it that's out there? And if it is us, where are we? Heaven, hell? Somewhere in between? Why have we not gone elsewhere? Why do we remain? Wildcard Line, you're on the air. Yes.
This is Frank in Freeport, Louisiana.
Down in Louisiana again. Yes, sir.
And I'm a long-time Civil War collector of relics, and walked the battleground at Pleasant Hill for 25 years. And the doctor who owns the land, we built a kind of an extensive museum by finding artifacts. And all this time, for the last 25 years, we began running into strange happenings on the battleground. This old log house that was used as a hospital during the battle and afterwards. And we had the commander of the Civil War reenactment. He was going to stay in the old house overnight to be on the scene early in the morning, and he had a lantern in there, and his daughter had put up a cot, and he was getting ready to go to bed because he had to get up early and command the reenactment the next morning.
Right.
And of course they had Civil War reenactors everywhere, but he said he was getting late and he wanted to go to sleep, and he said he didn't want to be disturbed. He told the rest of the reenactors to stay out. And all at once this ragged Confederate came in with straggly hair and beard, said, "It's your turn to take guard duty." And it irritated him real bad, and he said, "I got to command the battle tomorrow. You go do the guard duty." He says, "No, I'm tired. It's your turn." And that he laid down onto the cot where his daughter was laying asleep, and he dissolved into the cot where his daughter was. It shook him up pretty bad.
Yeah, that would do it. That would definitely do it. Now, battlefields.
Yes.
Battlefields have long been extremely haunted places for obvious reasons.
Let me tell you one more if we have time. We had a New York boy that came down from up here, and I had hunted the battleground extensively, and the 171st New York had used a ditch there to fight hand-to-hand combat until they were wiped out. And so I, of course, used metal detectors to find the relics, and I had hunted this ditch for about 5 years and found everything that could be found. He said, "Can I go with you? I would love to go since my kinfolk." Now, he was from up north. Of course, I live in the south. It's kind of unusual that way. So he went down there. He didn't know where he was. I didn't tell him where he was. And he found a beautiful brass spur right next to the ditch where the 173rd New York were completely wiped out. So it was a hot day, and we laid down in the ditch. And I never get any feelings like that. I don't know why, but he does, I guess. And he laid down in the ditch, and he didn't know all his kinfolks had all been killed in the ditch we were laying in. And all at once, he just jumped straight up out of the ditch like if something struck him with a hot poker. And he said, "Something just passed over me." He said, "I've got to get out of here. I've got to go." And I laughed, and I knew he didn't know where we were. And so I said, "Oh, John, just lay back down. Just because all your kinfolks all got killed right where you're laying is no reason to get upset." He jumped out of the ditch, sat down in the old road, and I had to have a little fun with him. I said, "John."
Southern fun. This is Southern fun.
Yeah. And so I said, "John, you just sat down in the old Civil War road." I said, "Pretty soon a caisson pulled by horses and a cannon will come roaring down the road, but don't get out of the way. It'll just pass on through you." Well, he was thoroughly shook because he was really nervous already and had something bothering him continuously. And he didn't know what to say to that, so I had to pull his leg a little more, and I said, "Pretty soon you'll hear the bugles blow. It'll be time to leave." And he was so upset by then. We were a mile from the car on the road, and he couldn't contain himself. He said, "Something's here with me. I've got to go. I've got to go." And I said, "No, John, wait till the bugles blow." And a coon hunter blew one of these old foxhorns at that time. And John left that woods, leaving a trail of smoke all the way to the car. And I walked him out up there, and he was scared to death sitting on the hood. He said, "Something was in that ditch with me." He said, I know it. And I said, "You couldn't even let me get in the car." He said, "You had it locked."
Well,
you got a real fun thing out of that.
Yes, well, now I've had a little taste of a Southern sense of humor. Greg, his whole family was killed in the ditch, and he felt something pass directly over him. And you didn't tell him. And you were having fun with them. Great sense of humor. Great. Maybe they just take those things for granted down there, huh? East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello. Hello there?
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Oh, it's me.
Only you'd know that for certain, but it sounds like you.
Hi, Art.
Hi.
I have a ghost story.
All right, where are you?
I'm in Texas, Austin,
Austin, all right.
right now. But the resident ghost was living with me on Long Island. And my son was about 3 or so. And we had a pull-down attic door. And he wanted the Jeep I had hidden for him for Christmas.
Yeah.
Up there. I said, how do you know what's up there? He said, well, Irving takes me up there. Irving. I said, who's Irving? He says, he visits me at night. And I said, well, how do you get up in the attic? Does he pull the door down? And he said, no, we float up through the ceiling.
Through the ceiling?
Through the ceiling. And in days to come, Irving had taken him to where Irving lives, which was a box of bones in the ground.
A box of bones in the ground?
In the ground.
Through the ceiling to get to a box of bones in the ground?
Yes.
Okay.
So, in days to come, we had an occasion to walk through the community cemetery to see the Memorial Day parade. And as we're walking through the cemetery, he pulls at me, he says, Mommy, there's where Irving lives. And I go over to where he showed me, and it was Irving Riggs.
Oh my God.
So,
you mean it said it right there?
It said it right there on the gravestone. So I worked for 30 so years at a hospital.
Me, but you know, this really sucks. I mean, I don't like graves. I want to be cremated. I don't like bones. I don't like things buried under the ground. And the last thing in the world I'd want is to be in a box with bones and Irving.
Well, that was Irving's bones, but I asked him, I said, weren't you afraid? He says, no, Irving talks to me.
Yeah.
But he was afraid at first. But now, there was a question earlier this evening. You said to somebody, does this child see the person?
Yes, oh yes.
Well, I have that answer for you.
And it is?
Well, I worked for years with a girl by the name, whose maiden name was Riggs. So I told her, I said, Edna, do you have any ancestors by the name of Irving? She says, yes, a great-grandfather. So I told her the story. And in quite a few years to come then, she said her aunt had died. And she went over to help her take the stuff clear the attic out. And a picture fell out of a box she was carrying down from the attic. And she asked her other aunt, who was this?
Yes.
And her other aunt said, that's the great-grandfather Irving. And so she gave me the picture.
Yes.
And now my son's in his teens, and he hasn't seen Irving, and Irving has just, turned water on, and we always say, oh, it's Irving. Things are falling off the wall, there's footsteps, and so when I came home from work and I put the picture on the bulletin board by the phone, my son comes running in from work or something, and he grabs the phone to call his girlfriend, and he stops short, he hangs the phone up, he says, Mommy, where did you get that picture? Who's that picture of? I said, I don't know. I said, who does it look like? He said, remember that guy who used to come visit me at night?
Man. Oh, God. So there's not much question about the fact that, at least in your son's case, he sure saw Irving.
And Irving was a real person, a real ghost.
Oh, man. Man, what a story.
We put a face to Irving. I wanted to tell you this story.
Better face than bones.
I think he was better looking in the picture.
No doubt. All right, my dear, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, oh no, thank you. I don't like that one. I don't like that one at all. Can you imagine being taken in the night by a spirit to the place underground where the body, what's left, is buried, to spend time with the spirit there? No, thank you. West of the Rockies, you're on the air.
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Hi, how you doing?
I don't know. I was doing better earlier. How are you doing?
Oh, fine. I'm calling from Sacramento.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I was privileged to live in a house that my grandfather purchased, got in the 30s. He bought the land and he built it up. He built it by hand and basically by cement. He was a cement mason. And over the years, he traveled during the war. My grandmother, they traveled around, doing contracts for the government, building, air bases and stuff. Well, they finally planted themselves on this piece of property. And my grandmother wouldn't move. Well, my grandfather passed away in the late 70s, and I came home and leave and saw him. And the night he passed away, we talked. Then my grandmother passed away in the late 80s. And me and my girlfriend decided, well, we'll move into the house. Now, this house was built by a bunch of drunken cement masons. So there was add-on.
A bunch of drunken masons?
Yeah, cement masons.
Cement masons.
And my dad and my uncle, they made the bricks by hand. My grandfather loved cement.
Yeah.
And he would cuss every time he said that house I made 100,000 of these bricks. Well, over time, the house, I moved in, I was a nurse, and I worked at night, and I lived in South Sacramento. And over time, the area deteriorated, but the plot of land we had in the house was there.
Right.
When we first moved in, things would start to happen. A light switch, we had these distinctive light switches. My grandfather was a scrounger. And if he could get it from a military base, he'd get it. These lights would go click, click,
right,
click, click. And we'd be sitting in the living room, and there was a lot of stuff left over from them, but you'd sit there and suddenly hear click, click, and the bathroom in the back bathroom would come on. The door would kind of jar, and then toilet would flush, click, click, the light would go off. These small things went on. You'd get cigar smoke. My grandfather was an avid cigar smoker.
Listen, sir. I'm going to interrupt your story, and we're going to finish it after the break. Is that all right?
Okay.
All right. Stay right. Click, click. Bones in a box. Irving taking me to visit. You've got to be kidding. You're listening to Ghost to Ghost AM. I'm Art Bell.
And in the shadow, damn you love and you lie. And if you don't love me now, you'll never love me again. And still hear you saying, never break the heaven. And if you don't love me now, I was a highwayman. Along the coach roads I did ride, sword and pistol by my side. Many a young maid lost her marbles to my trade. Many a soldier shed his lifeblood on my blade. The masters hung me in the spring of 25. But I am still alive. I was a sailor. I was born upon the tide. With the sea I did abide. I sailed a schooner around the Horn of Mexico. I went along with the girl who makes a little blow. And when the yards broke off, they said that I got killed. But I'm living still. I was a dam builder across the river deep and wide, where steel and water do collide. A place called Boulder Road, a wild, wild, wild road. I slipped and fell into the wet concrete below. They buried me in that great tomb that knows no sound, but I'm still around.
Man, that would have been a copyright from hell. A copyright from hell right there. Well, that's like, what, a 12-minute bumper?
From west of the Rockies at 1-800-618-8255. East of the Rockies, 1-800-825-5033. First-time callers may reach out at 1-775-727-1222. And the wildcard line is open at 1-775-727-1295. To reach out on the toll-free international line, call your AT&T operator and have them dial 800-893-0903. This is Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell from the Kingdom of Nine.
Well, I will remain. I'll be back
And again. Good morning, everybody. We're telling ghost stories this night. It's called Coast to Coast AM. We'll get right back to it. I wonder if some cruise ships are haunted. I don't think so. There certainly are some planes that are haunted, and here's my caller once again, sir. Please continue.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Back? Yeah, before I go on, I just want to, the tea trading company, I found them very amicable and very easy to deal with, and I will purchase many more things from them.
Thank you. You're right. They are.
Yeah. Where we were at? We were at my grandfather's house.
Yes.
Yeah. He was a character, but as I say, he loved his cement, and he would get friends to do things for him and build things. And the house started off, as I said, with one room, and then they added on. Well, over a period of time after they passed away and my girlfriend moved in, things, started happening. Cigar smoke, you could smell it. You could, fried chicken, lights would come on and off. You'd be sitting there and you'd get a whiff of my grandmother's perfume, or you'd get a cold breeze by your head. One thing, it was fun. It made you feel good. And my girlfriend would be home alone, and she'd be sitting in the garage room, which was where my grandmother spent most of her time. She'd say, "Dang it, Mike, she's back." And she'd say, "She's in here." She'd turn the TV on and off a couple times, and she'd laugh. But then things would start to happen. My grandfather had a cement shed where he did all his work for his pots and stuff. And we were one night sitting in bed, kept hearing this noise. And it was the cement mixer going around and around.
Oh my.
And we got it, went outside. Of course, it's not there anymore, but we kept hearing, and then you'd hear shovels.
Yep. Don't you realize, though, the potential horror that you're talking about? In other words, dying, being so attached. I can understand being attached to the work you have done, the stone work you have done, the house you live in, the area you're in, your plot of land, whatever it is. I can understand that, but the hell of being forever more confined, unseen, to roam in these places, it's horrible to contemplate.
Yeah, well, I understand that, and I felt for him, so we would talk to him. I'd be sitting there working, and I'd say, "How you doing?" And I worked in his office. I was actually lucky to live here for about 3 years. And the final kind of chapter in all this, my girlfriend and me were having a bad night, and we woke up suddenly, and she got up, and I got up, and walked outside in the living room. All the chairs were upside down. The property was being sold, so they, I think, were upset that they were losing their house, because this was the hub of our family.
No, that's right. No.
Years.
I understand the chairs were upside down.
Right. And so then, finally, I was tasked with kind of, my girlfriend was taking a bath. She felt the door open, and then she felt her hand on her back. Well, that's it. She got up, went out, dried off, got up. Well, the light went on, toilet flushed. There it is again. I got tasked to cleaning out the pump house, we called it, and there was a lot of stuff in there. And we were selling the property, so we had to clean out what's left over.
Right.
And this is kind of emotional because I cleaned it all out, and I was throwing my grandmother was a pack rat, everything. Well, I got done finished cleaning it out, and there was this shelf that had been cleaned off, but it had just been sitting there.
Right.
And I went out finally to get the last load, and I looked up, and there were these two cars. They were those little die-cast hot metal cars.
Oh, yes.
In the 40s.
Right.
Whoa, that's interesting. They were just sitting there with a red one and a green one. And I looked at them, where'd these come from? So I picked them up, and I took them into my girlfriend. I said, "Wait, you messing with me again?" Because we used to play tricks on each other. She said, "No." And she turned kind of white. She said, "Where'd you get those?" I said, "Out in the shed." She said, "I thought I felt something out there." Well, the cars turned out to be my father's when he was a kid. And I guess my grandmother wanted to have them because we were throwing all this stuff away, and they turned it back up. My dad kind of got curiosity, so I haven't seen these in 30 years. So, unfortunately, the property was sold and things moved on, and I think they're still there. I don't think they're happy. I hope, there was a lot of other things that went on, but it wasn't an evil thing. It was very, very, very pleasant to be there.
I understand.
And I really enjoyed it.
Well, I've enjoyed your story, and I'm going to amplify on it a little bit. Thank you very, very much. If you're very young, you won't comprehend what I'm about to say. But as you get older, a place that you have built yourself, a place that you have designed yourself, your own property, your own place, would and does carry such a very, very strong imprint on your mind that I can easily imagine that if there is some sort of existence, be it heaven or hellish after this life, you would not easily, nor perhaps ever, in the real horror of thinking about it, detach yourself from this place that you were so connected to, that you so loved, that you knew every cranny and crook that you loved, your place, your home, that you remain there. But that's quite a prospect to consider, isn't it? First time caller line, you're on the air. Good morning.
Hi, my name is Bob. I'm from Alameda, California.
Hello, Bob.
Yeah, and I live on an island. It's called Alameda, and the significance of that will come up later.
Right.
But I'm a commercial pilot, and in January of 1998, I was working on building cross-country hours.
Right.
So I
Do
flew up.
you fly big jets?
No, I fly small little airplanes. I'm still building up hours. Going to do my certified flight instructor rating.
Gotcha.
But off of that, we'll go up to, I was going to fly up to Ukiah. I flew up there and visited with my friends, and it got kind of late. So I started to fly back, and it was about 11:30 at night. And as I left the airport area, it was about 3,000 feet. And all of a sudden, it got really, really cold in the cockpit. Man, this is real cold.
In the cockpit?
Yeah, in the cockpit of this little 172 Cessna.
Mm.
So I reached up and closed the vents, and I pulled on the heater, and it just stayed really cold. And I didn't think much of it. I listened to a station called 960. It's an old 40 station. I had that going on, and they were playing the old music. And all of a sudden, over my headsets, I hear "Check Your Six, Boy." And I was all by myself in the cockpit of the communications radio. I didn't even have that on.
Yes.
So I turned around and looked behind me. Check your six. Look at your 6 o'clock position.
Right.
I turned around, and all of a sudden, there's just this kind of glowing green light. It's getting closer and closer. And I was like, yeah. I was like, oh my god.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So
What was the voice like?
it just sounded like some old 40s voice,
Check your six.
Yeah, check your six, boy, is what he said. And I turned around, and this light was getting closer, and so I go to turn and push forward, and the yoke wasn't moving. And these little planes aren't equipped with autopilots. And this thing was not, not pitching down and not turning or anything.
You couldn't change anything.
I couldn't move after that. And all of a sudden the lights dimmed in the cockpit. I'm getting real scared.
I hear you. Yes.
And so then I kind of get fixated on this thing coming up behind me, and as it gets closer, it had probably another, I'd say 60 or 70 knots on me. It was creeping up, and it went around on my right side and came up to about my 3 o'clock position.
Yes.
And I'm looking at it, and it's a huge flying boat with one of the old Pan Am type Clippers had pulled up alongside me.
You've got to be kidding.
Oh, I'm not. I wish I was, because it's really scared the heck out of me.
You swear as a pilot to be, this is true?
I can't lie.
All right, go ahead.
I don't tell people about this because they'll think I'm crazy, but I figured I'll go ahead and call. Anyway, this thing pulls up beside me, and it's starting to creep in, and I'm really frantically trying to get this stick to move, and I just look over, and all of a sudden I just see this face in the cockpit window, and this thing's huge, 4 big radial engines.
Yeah.
And the guy kind of gives me a wave, and then he turns off, pulls away, and then all of a sudden it just kind of vanished, and then I could start to hear things again, and I could hear the radio again. So I made it back to Oakland Airport, where I'm based out of.
Yes.
And and I landed there, and my mom had bought me this book a couple weeks earlier, and it was called, I got it right here, it's Pacific Pioneers, Pan American Story. And I just was curious, and I was looking through it. There's one thing called the M130 Philippine Clipper. It's a Martin flying boat, and it had crashed on it was January 21st, 1943. It crashed up in the Ukiah area, and I was like, wow, that's really amazing. Maybe that was the same one I saw. And then, I didn't think much of it after that. When I was riding my bike up at the old Naval Air Station in Alameda, and it turned out that Alameda was the base for the Pan American Company for their Pacific flights.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I could not believe it, but yeah, it happened.
So, you had a mid-air encounter with a ghost plane.
Yeah, and ATC, I queried them on my way in. I said, have you seen any planes around me on your radar? And they said no. And I didn't really want to press the thing. I was kind of worried I might have a phone number to call when I got back from the end.
Definitely you wouldn't want to tell that story.
No. So I kind of said, keep it under your hat and all your millions of listeners too.
We'll do that, sir.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you. But what does that tell us? What hints do we derive from that story with respect to things that are gone, dead, gone? Was it the plane itself? It was in some slip of time or dimension suddenly there again? Or the occupants of that plane that had crashed? Woof, what a story. Check your 6 o'clock, boy. Wildcard line, you're on the air. Hi.
Hey, this is Steve at Fort Walton Beach.
Hello there.
You're on Pack Radio 1260 AM.
Yes, sir.
A station I played a very instrumental role in getting you on.
Well, a gold star for you.
You just give me $1 million out of that $60 million you're going to get from them bozos.
In my dreams. That's not going to happen. We're doing that for reasons other than money. Money's never going to be there, but
I hear you.
But there's anyway.
Yeah, my thing that happened, it's not a very long story, but it freaks me out. It freaks me out every night I go to bed. And it's where I'd be laying, sleeping. I keep my room pretty dark. And then I just felt there was another presence in the room when I'm sleeping. It's dark, but you can still see silhouettes. But anyway, I'd be laying there and with my eyes closed, I wouldn't be moving. And I'd just thinking to myself, now if I get up really quick and look really fast, I'm going to see anything. Just because I felt something else in there. And I did. I got up really fast.
In other words, you felt the presence of something and you were intent on surprising it.
Right. Exactly. I always had a feeling there was something there. I'm not crazy or nothing, but...
So you jumped up?
I jumped up, looked up really quick, and most of the time there would be nothing there, but this time, back to the red eyes, 2 of them looking right at me.
Red eyes?
Yeah. For about 2 seconds, maybe, and then they were gone.
Oh, God. So what that really means is that probably most times that you felt a presence that way, when you didn't jump up and look, you now know what was there.
Yeah.
Red eyes.
It's only happened to me twice.
It would only take once for me. Red eyes are not good.
That's what I'm thinking.
Red eyes are definitely not good. I mean, when you think of angels and or heaven or God or the Creator or whatever,
exactly,
you don't think of glowing red eyes. Red eyes are not associated with that side of stuff.
No. That close thing, the Amityville Horror?
Yes.
There's those 2 red eyes?
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I see.
Like that.
Exactly like that.
I appreciate your call, sir. Thank you. Red eyes are bad. Very bad. It does not take a brain scientist to know that red eyes are not good. That red eyes are not